Would you say he wasn't an
Maybe
artist before
you'd
that?
say
I don't know.
working artist, I think. Like you could say I'm a filmmaker or I'm a comic. And then I think when the moment that you're paying your bills with that is when you're a working filmmaker.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay, but then you think, so then that's all relative because that journey, because I have a mortgage, car payments, kids, a wife. She's not expensive, but
you gotta buy groceries, man. You gotta buy these microphones.
She brings in more money than I do, but
you have bills that you gotta pay.
Yeah. Whereas, so my like it's gonna, if it ever happens, it'll be like forever. But let's say Megan Nash, she makes a living from doing music.
Right.
Very low overhead though. She lives out in what's that town called?
Morlack.
No,
Mossbank.
I don't know, that town with the church in it that they do shows at. They do the shows at all the time. Anyways, so she lives out there, and she probably her rent is like $100 a month or something, and and she gets fed at the shows, and so she does that for a living. But her overhead is like ridiculously low,
very low,
right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you're saying you're paying your bills with your art, then I guess a successful artist is an artist who knows how to keep their overhead low. Well, also she is very successful, but
no, she does have a following, and then she can play shows and bill herself at like a pretty good amount. But
That's
when
true.
you're in that game, like you have to pay your drummer, and you have to and also she can play with just herself. Like she could show up with an acoustic guitar and make
it's a great
$500 and keep all of the money.
And it's a great show.
And it's a good show. Yeah.
The band is great. Her alone is great. It's all great.
Yeah. I see. What I really wish, if I could go back in time to when I'm 15 years old, I wish I would have.
Dream about that all the time.
Well, I wish I would have I
feel weird masturbating though. I feel like I'm touching a 50-year-old penis.
This is kind of creepy.
This is not right.
I wish I would have dropped out of school and slept in my car. Because then, I mean, drop, this might not be great advice for if, anybody's a 15-year-old, no, I'd say, drop out of school and sleep in your car because, and I'm not kidding, maybe not the dropping out of school thing. If you want to finish school, whatever, finish school because public school is not expensive. But sleeping in your car, I think that there's something what you were saying, keeping your overhead low. Like sometimes what's keeping people from really busting loose and becoming and doing the things that they want to do is that they have rent at the end of the month. And they have oh geez, I got to come up with $800. So I can't tell my boss to go fuck himself and leave for this open mic and make these 2 gigs that my mom used to say I don't see why you're taking off work, these extra shifts, you could be making money. You go and pay these rock gigs. And it's Mom, we got to play these rock gigs because, we got to get bigger. We got to need more exposure, more practice.
That's kind of the life you want, right?
That's
create art.
And I would say if you're a young artist, you have to realize that there's 3 ways of doing things. You can have both feet in the artist boat. You can have both feet in the working boat, or you can have 1 foot in the working boat and 1 foot in the artist boat. And at some point in life, you're going to be pulled, and your work is going to pull. And the older you get, your artistry, the bigger the
stronger the pull.
Yeah, the older you get,
you're getting pulled apart. Yeah, until it destroys you.
Until you get ripped in half from your groin.
Yeah.
And that's just something I'm thinking about now as I'm turning 30, 31 is I wish I would have slept in my car for a couple of years and and just had no bills.
Yeah.
I think that would have been nice.
Yeah.
We were watching, to get back to Duplass.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay, let's introduce the show. The show that we're covering today is Paddleton. It's Mark Duplass, Ray Romano, from Everyone Loves Raymond.
Wait a minute.
My brother's tall, that guy.
Deborah.
That's pretty good.
I love
I kind of am in love with his voice a little. It's a nice voice.
It's a great voice.
Oh my gosh.
No wonder he did 18 Ice Age movies.
Yeah, it's true.
It's getting warmer. Oh, jeez.
With how the Duplass brothers were involved, so Mark, he stars in it. It was written by Mark and Alex Lehman, who he also did Blue Jay with, I think another one, and it was produced by Mark and Jay, and it was directed by Alex Lehman. But what I find interesting is
the writer, right? The co-writer?
No. So Mark and Jay, they have this kind of like thing where they used to direct and write, and then they were like, it seemed like they had this transition where they wanted to spend time with their families more. So they're like, we're not going to direct, because directing is like 15-hour days.
It's time consuming.
It's very time consuming. And I think they figured out that you can have a lot of creative control without having to put in all the hours. So they've really found a way to make it work for them. So they'll bring in all these directors that are really great directors, and they'll just produce it. So they'll front the cash, and then it seems like they have some films. They seem to have like a lot of creative input. Like it kind of like it feels like they directed it. And this is one of those films. It's like it has their vibe. And then there's other films that doesn't really have their vibe. So you may like, well, maybe they weren't as creatively involved. I don't know. Like Skeleton Twins with Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader. It's one of my favorite movies.
Is it a comedy?
Yeah, it's a comedy.
I would hate to use Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig and for it not to be a comedy.
Yeah,
it's a very serious movie.
It is kind of serious. It's a comedy with suicide and like reestablishing relationships.
Okay.
That started out as statutory rape and
right.
All those fun things. But
just your normal run of the mill movie.
Yeah. So this is like a really. So anyway, so this show, we're not really reviewing it. This podcast, we're talking about the stuff that's in the film, the themes and all that. Like, and so first off, like this film is about a guy who gets cancer.
Right.
This character Michael. Has your life been touched by cancer at all? They say 1 in 4 now in Canada. 1 in 4 people will die from cancer.
1 in 4 will die of cancer. Die.
That's not even like the people who get it and then they beat it and then they die in a car crash. They're not included.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
My grandmother, who I was close with, died of cancer.
Oh, really?
About 10 years ago. It's hard to remember how many years ago.
What was she like?
She was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful person. Very short, very blonde, very sweet.
Short physically or short like
physically short?
Why are you chewing gum?
No.
Yeah.
She had all the patience in the world. At least for us kids, she was very patient and very sweet and very funny and loved to laugh and was very
That's
sweet.
Cool.
Was your typical was your typical grandma that you would see, like a very sweet woman. And then when she was, I think, 58, she was diagnosed with cancer. And then she suffered from that for a few months. And then she passed away.
She didn't make it till 60. That's young, man.
That's young. Yep.
Yeah. Holy. Man. Yeah, that's like, you had a really young grandma, too. Because you said this is how long ago? Not too long ago?
10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a while ago. But still, it's like pretty... she was a pretty young grandma then.
She's a pretty young broad.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Do you ever get scared of getting old? Because it seems like your grandma stayed cool. But I don't know. I just see like more and more people I love that get older and older.
I don't fear age. Like I embrace getting... Well, I've always been kind of like I can't wait. Like when I was... in my teens, I couldn't wait. Like I couldn't wait till I was 16 so I could drive. Yeah. And then I couldn't wait to move out so I could be my own boss. And then I couldn't wait to be 30 so I could be more whatever. And like every time I realized I was getting more wrinkles on my face, I'd be like, oh, cool. I look more like Robert De Niro.
You do look a bit like Robert De Niro. A young one.
Where's the camera? I'm going to do a Robert De Niro
I know. I was going to set up cameras, but no cameras this time.
Oh, well. Audio podcast.
Yeah.
So I always embraced getting older.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm not afraid of that, but what I am afraid of is...
That's good.
My deepest fears are... clowns? No. My biggest fears that have to do with age are, I would say, are twofold. Not being financially dependent.
Right.
And so like having to go to a soul-sucking job that I hate.
Sure. Yeah.
And not accomplishing anything creatively. Like, I don't know why that's always been a thing for me. Like...
I feel you, man.
Yeah, like I've always had a bunch of ideas in my head, and like if it was a film, then it wasn't involved with like accolades or like getting on Sundance or anything. It was like I would really love to watch this movie. This is a great idea for a movie, and I can picture each scene and yada yada, or like I'll write a joke, or even like I'll see a comedian, and not that I'm thinking like, well, I can do that, or like I'm funnier than this guy, or like I'd take more risks than this, or like anything than that. It's more like I'll see there's the amount of fun that they're having on stage, and I want to do that. Like I really love that high you get from being on stage with a microphone and saying something and getting a reaction, either positive or negative, out of a crowd, because I don't mind the negative reaction, but a positive reaction always never hurts, always never. And I think that I always wanted to kind of be able to do that and be able to do it more frequently. Mm-hmm. And then because the more you do it, the more frequently you do it, I think the more you can kind of wield it to like...
Yeah.
And the more I go to this fucking job that I have to go to, it's like every moment spent doing that is like another notch on my like prison wall of like days spent not doing what I dream about doing.
Yeah. Well, I teach, right? So that's like I'm just subbing in the fall, which I'm looking forward to because I think it'll actually give me the time to put into like raising the money and other, for the film and getting the film done. So, but then, when it's all done in October, then I'll be like hating my life and wish I had more money. But, but for now, I'm like really stoked. But it is like, and I actually have a job that I enjoy. Like I really enjoy teaching, but I'm like, I don't feel like I'm already 38 and I'm like, well, I'm just like not good enough at it yet. And I'm already like, most teachers are like halfway through their game.
Good at teaching?
Yeah. It's like, I'm classroom management. It's always like, I'm always like trying to figure out how to do that. And
would it make you feel better if I told you that each person that taught me in school sucked at it? Just were like the worst teachers.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like when you're a teacher, you're constantly being judged by other teachers, by parents,
Students.
by admin. Like you can feel it, especially when you're a new teacher, right? Because everyone's kind of like seeing how good you are. I feel like once you've been there a while,
how do you gauge that?
And the only thing, because they're not, but it's also a really solitary job. So it's like, because they're not in the classroom with you,
right?
The only thing they have is like, how loud is your classroom? So it's the only. My classroom is always like way too loud because I just don't know how to.
Oh my god!
And I'm not super big on like shut up. And that's why I'm actually way better at subbing than I am at teaching long term, because I usually go in, I bring my guitar, I make jokes. They're like, oh, this guy's a cool guy, and I don't like shit on them too much. Like I'm not like, be quiet, I try and like, I kind of like take their energy and and move it to more positive places. Like long term, that's like really hard to keep up.
Yeah.
But one day you can do that, right? So it's like, but to do that for a year, it's just like eventually they're just gonna like be little terrorists, right? So, so it's like I don't, yeah. So but I